Hey y'all, grab a sweet tea because we're at the National Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Now, we did our best to show the types of planes these were, and yes, we did miss some. So if you see something we missed, please leave a comment and let us know. In 1903, the Wright Brothers made their historic first powered flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. It only lasted a matter of seconds, but those seconds changed the world. And one of the really fascinating things about visiting this museum is realizing just how quickly aviation developed after that first flight. In the beginning, airplanes were incredibly primitive. They were lightweight, they were fragile, and flying one required an awful lot of courage. But aviation developed at an astonishing speed. Within just a few years, airplanes were being considered for military purposes. And then came World War I. The airplane went from being an experimental invention to becoming a tool of war. At first, aircraft were primarily used for reconnaissance. Pilots could fly over enemy positions and report what they saw. But it didn't take long before nations realized that an airplane could do much more. Aircraft began carrying machine guns and bombs, and suddenly the sky became another battlefield. The aircraft you see in this section help tell that story. They show just how quickly aviation evolved during those early years. And when you stand next to one of these early aircraft, it's hard not to wonder what it must have been like to climb into one and take off. Because these weren't airplanes with modern conveniences. They were machines built around the basic idea that a human being could somehow control a flying machine. And that idea was about to take aviation somewhere nobody could have imagined. By the end of World War I, military aviation had become an essential part of modern warfare. And the airplane was no longer just a curiosity. It was here to stay. Now we are entering the World War II area. Now this B-18 Bolo was neat to see as we got to walk right underneath it and look up into the bomb bay section of the aircraft. We step into an era when aviation became one of the most important weapons of modern warfare. From legendary fighters to massive bombers, American aircraft carried the war across Europe and the Pacific. Aircraft like the B-17 Flying Fortress, B-24 Liberator, and P-51 Mustang helped carry out bombing campaigns and defend the skies, while transport and cargo planes kept troops and supplies moving around the world. Behind every aircraft were pilots, air crews, mechanics, and thousands of others who made these missions possible. The aircraft preserved here are more than machines. They are reminders of the people who flew them and the enormous conflict that changed the course of history. I want to take a moment and thank all the men and women who have served for our country. If you served in the military and feel like sharing, let us know which branch of service you were in. Or if you happen to be a part of the crew on any of the aircraft that is here at the National Air Force Museum, we would love to know. And thank you for your service. Now this here is about the atomic bomb. The Fat Man atomic bomb was one of the most powerful and destructive weapons ever created. Developed during the Manhattan Project, this plutonium bomb was dropped over Nagasaki, Japan on August 9, 1945. When it detonated, the explosion devastated much of the city and killed tens of thousands of people, both immediately and from injuries and radiation afterward. The bombing of Nagasaki, along with the destruction of Hiroshima, helped bring World War II to an end, but at an enormous human cost. Today, the story of the Fat Man serves as a sobering reminder of the destructive power of nuclear weapons. Here in the Korean War section, we went inside this aircraft, and this is one of the ones where we didn't get the type of aircraft it is, so if you know, please leave a comment and let us know. The Korean War began in 1950 when North Korean forces invaded South Korea, turning the Korean peninsula into a major battlefield. In this section of the museum, aircraft from the conflict help tell the story of a war fought in the skies as well as on the ground. From the rugged, propeller-driven aircraft of World War II to the new generation of jet fighters, Korea became a proving ground for modern air combat. The war ended in 1953 with an armistice, but no formal peace treaty was ever signed. The Korean peninsula remained divided, and the legacy of the conflict continues to this day. The Southeast Asia section takes us into one of the most difficult and controversial periods in American military history, the Vietnam War and the conflicts surrounding it. From the 1960s into the 1970s, American air crews flew thousands of missions across Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, carrying out bombing, reconnaissance, transport, and rescue operations. The aircraft on display here represent the enormous scale of the air war, as well as the rapidly advancing technology of the era. But behind every aircraft and every mission were the men and women who served in a conflict that would leave a lasting mark on American history. These exhibits preserve their stories and help us understand the human cost of war.
The launch pad shot impact.
As we move into the Cold War section of the National Museum, the story of aviation takes a dramatic turn. Here, aircraft and missiles tell the story of a world divided between two superpowers, where the threat of nuclear war was never far away. From high-altitude bombers and reconnaissance aircraft to powerful missiles built for the nuclear age, these machines represent decades of tension, competition, and technological advancement. It was a time when the United States and the Soviet Union never fought each other directly, but remained locked in a constant struggle for military and technological superiority. The Cold War may never have become a global nuclear conflict, but the weapons on display here show just how close the world could have come. Now this was my brother's favorite to see, which is the stealth bomber. Now we enter one of the most striking areas of the museum, the missile room. These massive weapons represent a time when the technology of warfare was rapidly changing, and missiles could carry enormous destructive power across continents. During the Cold War, the United States developed a wide range of missiles for defense, reconnaissance, and strategic nuclear deterrence. Standing beside these towering machines, it's easy to appreciate just how powerful and frightening the technology of the nuclear age became. This room is a reminder that during the Cold War, maintaining peace often depended on the terrifying possibility of what could happen if that peace failed. As we reach the final section of the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, we enter a world that takes aviation beyond the atmosphere and into the history of the presidency. The Space Gallery features spacecraft, satellites, and technology that helped push the boundaries of human exploration. But nearby stands one of the museum's most historic aircraft, Boeing VC-137C SAM 26000, better known as Airforce One. This aircraft carried 8 presidents, including John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. For President Kennedy, this aircraft carried him to Berlin during the Cold War, and later to Dallas on his final journey. After his assassination in 1963, Lyndon Johnson was sworn in as president aboard this very aircraft. It also carried Kennedy's body and the new president back to Washington. President Nixon later used the aircraft for historic diplomatic journeys, including his groundbreaking 1972 visit to China and his trip to the Soviet Union. Today, walking through this aircraft is walking through a piece of American history, a place where presidents traveled, decisions were made, and some of the most important moments of the 20th century unfolded. Over here was a special exhibit of Star Wars aircraft, the TIE Fighter and the X-Wing Fighter. We all enjoyed this exhibit, and y'all, I'm glad that my brother and Pops didn't have a lightsaber fight like they did in the Death Valley video. Let me know in them there comments if you've ever been here, or if there is something that we missed.